If you strip away modern technology and panic-driven headlines, home defense has always come down to the same fundamentals: awareness, preparation, deception, and discipline. During World War II, millions of civilians across Europe and Asia had no choice but to defend their homes with limited tools, scarce resources, and little outside help. These were not soldiers. They were factory workers, farmers, clerks, and parents who understood one brutal truth early on: survival favoured those who prepared before trouble arrived. What makes these World War II-era home defence tactics so valuable today is that they were designed for real-world chaos, not controlled environments. They worked under occupation, blackout conditions, rationing, and constant uncertainty. That is exactly why they still matter. Before we get into the tactics, it's important to understand the mindset. Civilian defence during World War II was quiet, layered, and intentional. There was no fantasy of heroic last stands. The goal was deterrence, delay, and survival. Everything else flowed from that principle. One of the most overlooked lessons from World War II home defence is that civilians did everything possible to avoid direct confrontation. Armed resistance was a last resort, not a plan. Homes were structured to discourage entry, confuse intruders, and buy time. Families understood that even winning a fight could still mean losing their lives later. Today, this translates into thinking beyond weapons and focusing on making your home an unattractive target. Practical application begins with reducing visibility. World War II blackout protocols were not just about hiding from bombers. They prevented outsiders from assessing occupancy, movement, and resources. Modern equivalents include disciplined lighting habits, controlled noise, and minimizing visible routines that advertise when a home is vulnerable. WWII civilians understood that a single locked door was, pretty much meaningless. Defence worked in layers. Gates, fences, furniture barricades, interior locks, and even narrow passageways all served a purpose. Each obstacle forced hesitation and, importantly, noise. In occupied France and Poland, families would routinely reconfigure their interior spaces at night, shifting furniture to create choke points and limit movement. Applying this today really means taking a hard look at how someone would move through your home if they gained entry. Reinforcing doors, adding internal locking points, and positioning heavy furniture to restrict access to sleeping areas can, honestly, drastically increase your response time and control. Deception was, in fact, a survival skill, not just some clever trick. In many WWII neighbourhoods, homes appeared abandoned while being fully occupied. Others looked lived in while actually empty. This sort of thing confused looters, deserters, and patrols alike. Civilians used timed lighting, sound cues, and visual misdirection to mask reality. These days, simple practices like inconsistent lighting schedules, varied parking habits, and, avoiding predictable routines serve exactly the same purpose. The goal is uncertainty. An intruder who cannot quickly assess risk is far more likely to move on. Weapons were, pretty scarce for civilians, but warning systems were everywhere. Gravel paths, loose boards, hanging objects, and even animals were used to signal movement. Families trained themselves to recognize specific sounds and respond instantly. This principle is honestly timeless. Early warning buys time, and time determines outcomes. Modern equivalents include motion alerts, dogs, environmental noise triggers, and disciplined listening habits. The lesson here is not technology dependent. It's about designing your environment to speak before danger reaches you. One of the most sophisticated tactics during the Second World War was internal control. You see, civilians had the foresight to identify safe rooms, fallback positions, and escape routes long before they were actually needed. Children were trained to move silently, follow exact paths, and respond to signals. Now, applying this today means rehearsing movement under stress. Knowing which doors lock the fastest, which windows serve as exits, and where to gather under pressure transforms panic into action. Even basic drills can dramatically improve outcomes when seconds truly matter. During World War II, noise attracted attention, and attention, well, it invited danger. Civilians practiced silent communication, controlled movement, and strict nighttime discipline. This wasn't paranoia, my dear listeners, it was reality. Today, this translates into understanding how sound travels, how routine noises signal occupancy, and how chaos can undermine defense. Practicing calm, controlled responses during stress events is as relevant now as it was then. No home stood alone during the Second World War. Neighborhoods, they shared information, watched patterns, and warned each other discreetly. This informal intelligence network often prevented incidents entirely. Modern applications, they include trusted neighbors, shared awareness, and communication plans that don't rely solely on devices. A connected community multiplies defensive effectiveness without confrontation. Civilians during the war, they constantly adapted. Tactics changed with seasons, threats, and resources. Nothing was static. This adaptability, honestly, is perhaps the most important lesson of all. Rigid plans fail, flexible principles endure. Home defense should evolve with circumstances, not rely on assumptions. These home defense tactics from the war, they weren't theoretical. They were forged under pressure, refined through loss, and proven by survival. They still work because, human behavior hasn't changed. Fear, opportunity, hesitation, and uncertainty remain constants. By studying how civilians defended their homes during the most dangerous years of the 20th century, we gain tools that are practical, grounded, and timeless. If this kind of deep historical analysis and real-world application matters to you, subscribe to Iron Age Instincts, share this video with others who value serious history, and help keep these lessons alive.